just share with you some of the thoughts that I wrote in my column today. It's up at rightlyconcerned.com. Title of my piece is King Barack the Lawless Takes Us Back to the Dark Ages. Now, I'm using that very deliberately because we have a president now who is simply not restrained by the law. He is not restrained by the Constitution in any way, shape, or form. Barack Obama is a king, not a president, because he is saying to the American people, the law is whatever I say it is. Because what he did yesterday when he waived this employer mandate for Obamacare, this was his bill. This is the one he promoted. He hacked for this thing. He flacked for this thing. He signed it with great flourish. This is his bill. It's Obamacare. You notice, by the way, start noticing this in the media. They are going to refer to this as the Affordable Care Act. They're not calling it Obamacare anymore. When things were going blazes, it was Obamacare. Remember, because Obama said, I'm fine with that because I care. Obamacare is good by me. And the media, the lapdogs, just ate it up and they called it Obamacare. Now the thing is blowing up in everybody's face and all of a sudden it's the Affordable Care Act. You won't see anybody in the mainstream media referring to this as Obamacare anymore. But what President Obama did yesterday, it was tyrannical. It was unconstitutional. It was unethical. It was immoral. And it was unconscionable for him to do this. Now, my point here is what Barack Obama did yesterday is he reversed 798 years of political progress, and he, in one fell swoop, has taken us back to the dark ages of dictators and back to the dark ages of the rule of men, because King Barack the Lawless has decided that the law is whatever he says it is. This is exactly what happened back in 1215. The nobles of England, they gathered together, they surrounded King John in the meadow at Runnymede, and they compelled him to sign the Magna Carta. And the Magna Carta was the thing that limited his power and forced him to acknowledge that the law is not a matter of arbitrary caprice, and it's not something that is subject to his own will and to his own whim. And that's been a part of our philosophy of political structure since 1215 A.D. Barack Obama just went back. He got us in the Wayback Machine with Mr. Peabody and whatever was Mr. Peabody the dog? Who was Mr. Peabody was the dog, right? Who was the guy that went back in the Wayback Machine? Anyway, going back with Mr. Peabody to 1214 A.D., back to the Dark Ages, back when kings ruled and the law was whatever they said it was going to be. Now, the Magna Carta, that Lord Denning described it as the greatest constitutional document of all times. And it provided the impetus, intellectual impetus, political impetus for all of the political structures in the colonies and for the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. Now, the genius of the American political experiment is that we are a nation of laws. We are ruled by the law, not by men. We operate under the rule of law and not under the capricious and arbitrary rule of men. That all went out the window yesterday because King Barack the Lawless had absolutely no authority of any kind to decide on his own that a duly enacted law passed by Congress without one Republican vote, you're aware, but it was passed by a majority in Congress. He signed it into law himself. He has no authority simply to set it aside and ignore it. And ladies and gentlemen, he cannot and must not be allowed to do this. If this is allowed to stand, now I hate Obamacare, and you do too. And in fact, Obama does. That's why he pushed this thing off for a year, because he knows it's toxic. He knows that's going to be a bloodbath for the Democrats next November if this thing goes into effect on January 1, and they have to live with all the fallout. There isn't a Democrat in the country that isn't at risk next November. He knows that. So this is all about politics. I mean, he's the one that said we've got to do what's best for the country. People need health care. Obamacare is the solution. Well, if he really believed it was best for America, then he would forge ahead with this thing despite the opposition. So he knows it is not. But if this is allowed to stand, ladies and gentlemen, we will have become a banana republic rather than a constitutional republic. Back into Focal Point AFR Talk.